So this is a story that starts with a roar so loud it's been echoing for almost 150 years. It all begins with this single, out-of-control gas well, but believe me, its legacy is all around us today. You can see it in our weather, our water, and even the ground right under our feet. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Murraysville, Pennsylvania. Looks pretty peaceful, right? But this small town just east of Pittsburgh, well, this is actually ground zero for the entire modern natural gas industry. This is where it all began, an industry that, as you know, would totally reshape the world's energy landscape. But back in 1878, this very spot was anything but peaceful. In fact, it was described as, and I quote, one of the loudest, violent, and most polluted places on Earth. That's a huge change from the quiet historical marker you'll find there today. So what on earth happened? Well, it all kicked off with two brothers who were just drilling for oil. But what they found instead was something way more powerful and a whole lot more dangerous. You see, the Haymaker brothers weren't just striking a bit of gas. They had accidentally unleashed a genuine force of nature. They drilled down about 1,400 feet and basically tore the lid off a subterranean monster. A pocket of gas under such incredible pressure that it just blew out with a force that's hard to even imagine. The sound, it was just deafening. People said you could hear the roar from 15 miles away. And what was causing that roar? An estimated 30 million cubic feet of natural gas. We're talking pure methane, blasting straight into the atmosphere. Every single day. Now, to really get the scale of this, we've got to talk about methane for a second. You know, we hear about carbon dioxide all the time, right? Well, think of methane as its hyperpotent cousin. It's the real heavyweight when it comes to trapping heat. Over just a 20-year window, it's more than 80 times more powerful. So this blowout wasn't just a local mess. It was a global climate event in the making. And think about this. This was way before the first Model T ever hit the road. This one single well was pumping millions of tons of this super potent greenhouse gas into our atmosphere. It was, without a doubt, one of the first major man-made climate events in history. And then, well, the inevitable happened. The gas caught fire. For a year and a half, the Haymaker well burned as this massive pillar of fire. It was a torch so bright that it literally lit up the night sky in Pittsburgh, 24 miles away, like it was daytime. Just incredible. The fire did eventually go out, but the story, oh, it doesn't end there, not by a long shot. So now we're going to jump forward to today, to a park just down the trail from that original well site where you can still feel the legacy of that roar. This is Duff Park today. And what you're seeing, these aren't just a few random trees that fell over. I mean, look closer. These are huge, ancient trees, just ripped straight out of the ground. They're root balls, completely exposed, like these tangled, massive sculptures. So what's doing this? This is a very real, physical sign of our changing climate. You see, warmer temperatures fuel more powerful storms, which bring higher wind speeds, winds strong enough to topple even the most ancient trees in what used to be a protected old-growth forest. And this link between the past and the present gets even clearer, even more direct, when you see what's happening in this exact same area right now. It's almost hard to believe, but over a mile beneath the very same park where those ancient trees are falling, a whole new era of gas extraction has started, with fracking. That promise of cheap, abundant energy that began with the Haymaker well, it's echoing all over again. You see, the roar never really went away. It just changed its form. Instead of one massive, incredibly loud gusher, today's industry has thousands of much smaller, silent leaks, these fugitive emissions from wellheads, pipelines, and abandoned wells. It's the same potent methane. It's just a lot harder to see and hear. And you know what? The fire is still burning too. It's just not one giant torch anymore. Now, the gas from the Marcellus Shale is burned in countless furnaces and power plants. And when it burns, what does it release? CO2, the exact same thing the Haymaker fire was producing almost 150 years ago. But the cost here isn't just something you measure in greenhouse gases. There are other impacts, really immediate ones, happening right there on the ground. For starters, every single fracking well uses millions of gallons of fresh water. That water gets permanently contaminated and taken out of the local water cycle forever. This puts a huge strain on local resources, like the Beaver Run Reservoir, which, by the way, supplies drinking water for about 130,000 people. And then there's the human cost. Recent studies have started to find some really alarming correlations for people who live near these unconventional gas wells. Things like higher rates of asthma, increased risks for newborns, and even a terrifyingly higher likelihood for children to develop rare cancers like lymphoma. All of this really leads us to one big question. When we hear natural gas being marketed to us as a clean energy, as a bridge fuel, what parts of the story are being left out? Look, the fossil fuels that were unleashed at sites like Haymaker literally built our modern world. There's no denying that. But the consequences of all that energy, they're no longer just some abstract warnings about a distant future. This energy forged our steel. It powered our growth. It really defined the American century. But that prosperity, it came with a massive price tag. And now, the bill is coming due. And it's not arriving in the mail. It's arriving in our daily lives. We are seeing a huge surge in billion-dollar weather disasters, which is driving up insurance costs for everyone. We're living through record-breaking heat streaks. And we're seeing wind gusts so powerful, they're literally exceeding the ratings for standard building materials. This is happening now. And that leaves us with this final thought. The energy that started roaring out of the ground in Mauriceville helped build the world we all live in today. But as we see its echo in the falling trees, in the changing climate, we just have to ask, what kind of bill are we leaving behind for the next generation to pay?